there, welcome back to another week of Fifth Shows. I'm going to start this week with a double bill of Buster Keaton. Like, both videos put up to date are about Buster Keaton, but both are from different eras and different periods of his life. The first video is about Buster Keaton Volume 3 from Eureka Massive Cinema. This has just come out and it covers Our Hospitality, Go West and College, three very good films that Buster Keaton made during his early period in the 1920s when it was at its peak. You get a nice booklet here which has a bunch of photos and articles which I haven't read yet. You get the obviously the box, and you get the discs, all three films and the discs. Very nice set. Yeah, every disc comes with extras. Like Our Hospitality has a shorter version of the film. Each film has a visual essay talking about the film and talking about Buster Keaton and his techniques. And there's general documentaries. There's one called Buster Keaton Rides Again, which was made in the mid-60s, just before he died. A documentary on him. So there's lots of good stuff on here. But I'm really here to talk about the films, and the films in this set are wonderful. And once again, Eureka have done a great job restoring them. They've brought up some really good films. They've really delivered them as best they possibly can be with the materials available to them. So I'll start with the first film, Our Hospitality. This was Buster Keaton's first feature-length comedy that wasn't an anthology. I mean, he made an anthology before this, which was like 3 shorts put together with a link to them. That was his first feature-length film. This is his first feature-length film. It was actually one narrative that went through from start to finish was one narrative. And it has an ingenious idea. Sorry about the cold. I've had it for a few weeks. I can't get rid of it. So basically, Keaton is this young man whose father was involved. His father's family was involved in a feud with this other family in the south, and it went too far. His father was killed. Another guy was killed. The feud goes on. Buster was taken away from that area and grew up with his aunt, and he didn't know about the feud. He grew up normal, and then eventually he's told, yep, he has to go and collect his inheritance. And then at that point his aunt tells him about the feud. So she's told, if you go and collect your inheritance, be careful, get in and out quickly as possible, or if you stay, be very careful. So Keaton goes south to get his inheritance. And of course he runs into the people who he's trying to kill him. So most of the movies, his family try to kill him. Unfortunately, he falls in love with the girl of that family. She's the same age as he had, early 20s, and they fall in love. And well, Keaton ends up being invited to the house before they realise who he is. So he can't actually leave the house, or they'll kill him. So if he sets foot outside the house, they can shoot him. Inside the house, because of the code of hospitality, it goes against everything to kill him. So he has to stay inside the house for a very long time, which sets up a lot of opportunity for gags. So the whole film is about this feud, and basically it's used a way that for Keaton to be hunted down like a dog for the second half of the film, and allows for lots of gags. This is a wonderful film. This is my favourite Buster Keaton films, because he sets it up. The first 5-10 minutes there's no comedy, it's just serious. This is a feud. Sets up the feud. Then for the next 20-25 minutes he's getting to the location on this train, which is in from the 1830s, so the train looks ridiculous, and there's lots of gags about how the train lines are kind of dubious and not very well developed, and they can get moved, and there's all these ups and downs and stuff, and there's lots of funny gags with trains that Keaton managed to pull off. And it's wonderful. It's nothing to do with the main plot, it's just him getting to the location but having fun with with just basically what was available at the time. Eventually gets to the location, finds out his inheritance is an old hut it's not worth a damn for anybody, so he's better to get the hell out of there as quickly as possible. But he has been discovered at this point. And there's a wonderful scene where the first time he discovered, the guy discovered him doesn't have a gun, so he keeps on asking Keaton. He doesn't reveal himself to Keaton, just asks Keaton to walk with him, so he walks with him and they say, "We wait a minute, you go to the shop." You go into the shop, ask for a gun, don't have one. It keeps on happening, then goes into this other shop, we don't have one. And if he gets a gun, Keaton's gone. You know, it's just this great joke about America where this guy can't find a gun. And there's all these jokes about guns, how they have to be reloaded every time you get shot, which gives Keaton an advantage for running away. So eventually he has to go to this dinner party in this house. He doesn't have a clue that the family in the house are the ones trying to hunt him. So he goes to the location, finds out they're trying to hunt him, and he cannot leave. He has to find excuses not to leave. So you have thunderstorms, you have all these really weird elements, and he ends up staying in the house and not leaving no matter what. We'll try to keep up the tents, and also not telling his love why he can't leave the house. So there's all these tricks where these guys are trying to get him out of the house by luring him out of the house. He's trying to avoid it and finding ways to make them make mistakes so he can avoid a trickery, which is a lot of fun moments. Eventually he has to leave the house. They can't keep this going forever, but here he goes for the right amount of time to be very amusing with it. Then you get a chase through the backlands of the south, and then a great scene of water and a waterfall that is wonderful. Very Keaton. It allows him to do lots of weird tricks, and there's chases along the mountains. It's all wonderfully done. It's all really weird and strange, and it's a wonderful film. It's just Keaton at his best. He's just like you have the mix of physical gags, but also have a lot of weird side gags of Keaton's reactions to things that are just odd. Because Keaton's just an odd fish in these films, and it's wonderful because they know how far to push him, how far to let him be odd to make it work. So Our Hospitality is just a wonderful, wonderful film. I'd highly recommend it. Next is Go West. Go West is another terrific film. It's the longest of the three, and I think it's the one film that probably could have lost 10 minutes somewhere. It's almost an hour and a half, and there's nothing you say, oh, you have to cut that, you have to cut that. All the jokes are funny, but it just feels an accumulation of jokes that it feels a little long. But it's still wonderful. It's still a wonderful film. It's probably the weakest for me of these three films, but it's still better than most comedies you'll ever see. So it's like the weakest one, still brilliant. Basically, it starts with Buster Keaton. He's a man down in his luck. He goes from place to place and tries to find jobs and never gets anywhere. He goes to New York, finds nothing but a gun, a small woman's gun. And he's travelling the railway lines back and forward, and ends up in the West, where he gets a job as a cowboy. Accidentally. He gets a job by putting on the clothes of the cowboy, and they just assume he's been hired, and no one ever really hires him. He's absolutely useless. And that's the joke, is how he cannot do the most basic cowboy stuff, and it's just putting Buster Keaton in all these cowboy cliches and watching him try to figure it out. And how he kind of gets an affection for this cow that's also an oddball amongst the cows. And he's trying to protect this cow and this, because all the cows are going to go to slaughterhouse eventually. And he's just an affection for this cow that doesn't really belong. And it's about this friendship between Buster and the cow, and how the owner of the farm, his daughter has fallen for Buster, even though Buster's obviously oblivious to it all. And but she still does her best to keep him in line and help him out, and it's just a lot of funny Buster Keaton gags of him trying to learn how to milk a cow, how to get eggs from a chicken, and how he doesn't even want to, when he's milking a cow, he doesn't want to touch the cow in the first place. He just like puts the pail below it and waits, just staring at this, waiting for it. And him trying to use the lasso and trying to get on a horse. We ends up getting this little ladder so he can climb the horse because he's so small. It's full of wonderful gags. Eventually they have to take the the cows to market. So Buster ends up on the train, not very happy because his beloved cow is one of the ones that are going to get slaughtered. And the train, it causes a rival farm who want to sell their cows for more money. They want to stop these cows from getting to market. So they try to do a train robbery, which goes wrong and leaves the train out of control, flying towards the town. So Buster's the only one in the train, having to stop the train. And then when he stops the train, he has to get all the cows to market, even though the market's the other side of the town. So he ends up walking all the cows, herd the cows all through this town, causing havoc. It's the best scene in the film. All these cows going through town and no one's expecting them, and everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And they're getting terrified of these cows. The cows end up in stores, end up in barber shops, and it's insane. It's a wonderful sequence, and Buster's walking along, trying to do his best, but being just a bit odd. And he ends up having to put himself in a devil suit because the cows hate red. The bulls will charge at red, so they have to have him follow him and run like hell, and then the in devil suit. It's just a wonderfully silly film. It just works. There's just tons of little things that Buster try to avoid having his cow branded, and just this weird effect between him and this silly cow. And all these weird gags about how he never eats the same time as everyone else, and how his gun is so small compared to everyone else's gun, and it's just ridiculous. There's all these weird gags throughout. This is just a great film, so much fun. As I said, it's just a bit long. There's nothing there you think, oh, you should have cut that, you should have cut that. Everything in the film feels like it's the end of the film. It just feels like an accumulation. It's a bit long. Like they could have cut something out just a little bit to pace it up a bit more. Even it meant losing a good gag or two just for the pacing. But still a wonderful film, still great to watch, so I'd highly recommend it. Finally, we have College. College is the Buster Keaton film that he made after the General. That's because the General was a big budget film that didn't do as well as people had hoped. So he made this lower budget film. Just Buster Goes to College is a quickie, inexpensive film that would bring him back to the core audience and make it more of a joke machine rather than a story. So the basic idea is Buster goes to college. He has to work his way through college, and he's a swot, he's a bookworm who does not believe in physical exercise. He thinks it's just a waste of time. Well, everyone else is into physical exercise, so he has to, and he makes his big speech at his graduation from school saying that physical exercise is garbage, which means his love of his life actually falls out with him because of it, because she said she's very demeaning and stupid for what he said. So he has to try and prove himself to her. And this one sequence, him graduating, is brilliant because it starts off him and walking in the rain with his mother to go there. And he's soaked through his skin. And then he's forced, because there's no seats left, to sit beside the heater. And the heater makes his clothes shrink. And as he's talking, his clothes start shrinking and he can't move and he's very awkward. And it's this weird sequence allows Buster Keaton to deliver this big speech while being utterly ridiculous. So he goes to college, he has to work his way through college. His parents don't have any money, so his mum doesn't have any money, so he has to work his way through college. And a series of jobs that are demeaning to him because he's not very good at them. He just doesn't have a clue. He's not interested. He's a bookworm. So he goes to college. He first works in this as a barman in this like shop that sells all these like sweet drinks and things, and he tries to show off his skills because this other barman has all these physical show-offy skills, and Buster can't do it, and Buster makes a total mess of it and gets fired. Then the most dated scene in the film, he ends up going to work in this black only restaurant that's actually black serving whites, and he blackfaces himself up. Not the best thing at all. But the thing of this sequence is, the point is how stupid he is. It's not to mean the black people, it's to mean him. because he's so dumb and he's so desperate. And as soon as they work out what's going on, he ends up getting chased by all the black workers because he's so awful. But at the same time, he's trying to learn sports, and his studies are being damaged by that. But he explains to the guy in charge of the college, yeah, but he's in love with this girl and he's trying to prove himself to her. So the guy's a big softie and he gives him, helps him along with it. But the sports stuff is based on a collection of gags to watch Buster Keaton fail at sports. That's all it is. I mean, it's not the most... I mean, compared to the general, this is very basic stuff. But it works, because Keaton's so good physically, he can make a gag out of anything. And they get gag after gag of him failing at javelin, failing at running and jumping, failing at running basically, like kids can outrun him. Fails at baseball entirely, catching anything, he's absolutely awful. And he ends up, the only job he can get is athletic is to be the coxsman in the boating team, which basically means he tells people where to go and he makes sure they go in the right direction. The most demeaning thing ever, but he does it and he helps them win. And then he finds out his girl is about to be defamed by her boyfriend who's been thrown out of school. This guy who's been the jock of the film, he's been the guy who's in sports to the extent he's not interested in anything else. And he turns out to be the villain, and Buster has to get from the event to save her. Where we find out he has learned how to do all the sports stuff, because once he actually has to do it and jump over fences and stuff and pull over stuff, he has learned the skills, even though he didn't know he knew how to do them, but he did know it. He did learn. So it's a wonderful sequence we see him actually putting it into effect. It's a wonderful film, really silly, but it really works. I mean, it's in some ways it's the most basic of the Buster Keaton films because it is basically a gag machine. Like, you're not meant to take anything that seriously in this one, but all the jokes work. You know, the story's basic as hell, but the jokes work. I mean, there are other films which are better stories, more interesting stories than most of them, but this one is gag for gag. It really delivers. And at least the most cynical ending ever, where he gets a girl and then you show them getting married and then having a family and then getting old and then the graves side by side in the grave, and it's like, and the whole time you're Buster looking depressed through each shot, and it's like a total piss take of any romantic ending to any rom-com. It's just so funny, it's just so dark, and it's something only Buster Keaton can get away with. So there's the 3 films. These are wonderful films. I'd highly recommend them. They're really well done. Buster Keaton's made a film in the 20s, you should watch it. I'm still getting through his short films and short box set, but I'll do a video on them once I've finished. I'm still going through them just now though. But this is highly recommended. Get it as soon as you can. All 3 films are worth having. All 3 films are wonderful. They're really hilarious. They're spotless timing of the jokes. The setup of the cameras to cover the jokes are great. They make a great joke and then move on to the next one, the next one, the next one. There's such confidence to them that they're just wonderful. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back soon for another Buster Keaton video. Right, bye for now.